In February 1959, 9 young skiers, led by Igor Dyatlov, embarked on an expedition in the Ural Mountains, one of the most inhospitable and challenging regions of the Soviet Union. The goal was simple: to cross the mountainous region and complete the skiing journey in extreme conditions. However, what followed this expedition was a profound and disturbing mystery that remains unexplained to this day. The members of the group never returned, and what was found months later in their tent left the world stunned. The bodies of the skiers were discovered under mysterious circumstances that generated a series of theories, none of which offered a conclusive answer. Today, we'll explore these theories in detail, following the discoveries, speculations, and enigmas surrounding the so-called Dyatlov Pass incident, which remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in modern history. Before diving into the theories, it's important to understand who the members of the group were and what motivated their journey. The group consisted of students from the Ural Polytechnic University, all with extensive experience in skiing and outdoor activities. They were well prepared for the expedition and had successfully completed similar trips before. The group's leader, Igor Dyatlov, was a skilled and respected skier, and the other members were also highly experienced. The goal of the trip was to cross the Ural Mountains, a challenging and remote route, and return within 2 weeks. But something went wrong. During the expedition, the group entered an area known as Dyatlov Pass, a steep and dangerous zone where they set up camp on the night of February 1st, 1959. This would be the group's last night, but no one knew that at the time. The group was in a remote area with no communication with the outside world. What happened next still leaves us stunned. After several days without word from the group, authorities became concerned. A rescue mission was organized, and the bodies of the skiers were found about 2 months after their disappearance, on May 26, 1959. When investigators arrived at the site of the camp, the scene was bizarre. The tent was torn from the inside out, indicating that something had forced the skiers to leave in a hurry. There was only one possible conclusion. The skiers had left their belongings and fled in a panic. But what had scared them so much? There were no signs of a struggle, and the bodies were scattered in a peculiar manner, suggesting that at some point the group had to separate, possibly trying to save themselves. Some were found without clothes, despite the extreme cold of the region, while others were in various stages of decomposition. The strangest thing was the fact that some of the bodies had severe injuries, such as broken ribs and skull fractures, but with no signs of external trauma or signs of struggle. The case quickly became an international issue, and a series of theories were formulated to try to explain the inexplicable. Theory 1, the avalanche, the fear of natural disaster. One of the most widely discussed theories is that an avalanche forced the skiers to leave the tent and flee for their lives. Avalanches are common in mountainous regions, and the group was in an area particularly prone to snowslides. According to this theory, an avalanche occurred while the skiers were sleeping, waking them up suddenly and forcing them to leave quickly to escape the snow. This theory explains the panic that led the skiers to exit the tent without worrying about the cold, as fleeing from an avalanche is a life or death situation. However, a series of questions arise when we try to apply this theory to the scene found by investigators. First, there were no clear signs of an avalanche, such as a thick layer of compacted snow or fallen trees, which are typical after a snowslide. Additionally, the fractures on the bodies didn't match the damage usually caused by an avalanche, which would typically result in crushing due to the weight of the snow. Some researchers suggested that a small-scale avalanche could have occurred, but it wasn't enough to cover the bodies or cause significant damage. Instead, the panic of an impending disaster may have caused the skiers to leave the tent without thinking, in a moment of desperation. However, this theory still falls short, as it doesn't fully explain the fractures and injuries found on the body. Or Theory 2, wild animal attack, a fight for survival. Another theory that was raised was the possibility that the group was attacked by wild animals, such as wolves or bears. During the investigation, it was noted that some of the bodies were missing their eyes and tongues, which led to the belief that animals had fed on the victims. This type of behavior is observed in animal attacks, where they target the most vulnerable parts of their prey. However, the theory of a wild animal attack was quickly dismissed by wildlife experts. The area where the group was camping wasn't known for having large populations of wolves or bears, and the bodies found didn't show the typical signs of an attack, such as deep scratches or bites. Additionally, the bodies were scattered over a large area, which is inconsistent with an animal attack. Typically, wolf attacks, for example, would result in victims being grouped together or showing clear signs of a struggle. Therefore, despite the evidence of mutilation on the bodies, the theory of a wild animal attack isn't considered a convincing explanation for what happened. Or Theory 3, secret military experiments. The impact of classified testing. One of the most intriguing theories suggests that the skiers were victims of secret military experiments conducted by the Soviet Union. In the 1950s, the Soviet government was conducting a series of covert military and scientific tests, including experiments with radiation and mind control weapons. Some believe that Dyatlov's group may have accidentally or intentionally come across one of these experiments. The primary evidence fueling this theory is the presence of radiation on the skiers' clothing and personal items. Reports indicate that traces of radiation were found on the victims' clothes, suggesting they were exposed to some type of radioactive material or involved in a military experiment with radiation. Furthermore, the injuries found on some of the bodies, such as skull and rib fractures, could be explained by shock waves or pressure weapons developed by the military. The idea that the group was targeted by an experiment involving radiation or secret weapons explains the strange behavior and quick death of the skiers, although to this day, there is no concrete proof to support this theory. Theory 4, unknown natural phenomena. The hot air explosion theory, a theory based on rare natural phenomena, suggests that the group was affected by a hot air explosion or some kind of unknown atmospheric phenomenon. This kind of phenomenon occurs when a layer of warm air forms above a cold air layer, which can create strange effects on the environment, such as hallucinations and disorientation. This phenomenon could have caused a panic-induced irrational behavior among the group, leading them to leave the tent in haste. The effects of such a phenomenon could be intense, causing symptoms like confusion, disorientation, and even psychotic behaviors. For the skiers, this could have been a terrifying experience, which would explain their hasty departure. However, the theory doesn't fully explain the injuries found on the bodies, which remain a mystery. Additionally, the lack of concrete evidence of such a phenomenon makes it hard to accept this explanation as the only true one. Theory 5. Collective psychosis. Psychological breakdown under pressure. Another psychological theory suggests that the group may have experienced collective psychosis, a condition where people share hallucinations or delusions due to extreme stress or a highly pressurized situation. In this case, the isolation, extreme cold, and physical exhaustion could have caused a psychological breakdown among the group members, leading them to make irrational and potentially fatal decisions. According to this theory, collective psychosis could have triggered a mass panic, causing the skiers to rush into the forest without clothing and split up in search of safety. But why were some of them found in such distant locations? And why were some without clothes? The psychological factor probably played a role, but what else was happening in those mountains? Before conclusion, the unsolved mystery. The Dyatlov Pass case remained one of the greatest mysteries in Russian and world history. Despite numerous theories, there is no definitive explanation for what happened to the 9 skiers. The evidence points to several possibilities, but none of them are conclusive. What really happened that night in February 1959? What really led the skiers to leave their tent in panic and face death in such extreme conditions? The Dyatlov Pass remains an unfinished story. And while new investigations and theories continue to emerge, the truth still eludes human understanding. No matter how hard we try to understand, the mystery persists. What do you think happened? Will we ever know the truth?